think cycles morph and change over time. But humans, by definition, tend to be cyclical in what we do. GDP is cyclical, credit is cyclical, equities are cyclical, commodities are cyclical. So there's something inherent within how humans get excessively pessimistic and excessively optimistic, that it's cyclical. Is it driven by the halvening? Probably. Will that continue in due course? Maybe not. But there'll still be a cyclicality, and it'll keep moving around. You know, if you look at the GDP cycle, it used to be kind of every 3 years, you know, peak, trough, peak, trough, peak, trough. Then we got to modern central banking, and it started being like a 4-year cycle. And then we've seen, you know, the last one was, you know, a significant period of time, 2009 till 2020, 11 years.
How about end of 2021? Take us there. So do you have any price predictions? Let's do Bitcoin and
well, my price prediction has been ETH north of 20,000.
Wow.
And that's pretty simple. All I did is just map over the ETH chart to the Bitcoin 2017 chart. They work perfectly. And it gives you 20,000. So, you know, there's no great science to that, but it feels about right. I've also mapped the Bitcoin price versus Bitcoin 2013. They look pretty similar. And there's a bunch of other ways I do it with Bitcoin, with log charts and regression analysis, stuff like that. Generally speaking, I think it's somewhere between 250 to 400,000, with an outside chance of 1 million if we get an extended cycle.
We're talking the end of 2021, or are we talking longer term than that?
End of 2021, March 2022, something like that.
Wow.
Don't forget that they usually go up 5 to 10x in the last 3 months of the year. You know, so, you know, we haven't even got to the all-time high, but let's say Bitcoin goes up, you know, 5x from the 60,000 high. That's 350. That'd be very normal rally for year end, considering we're about to have an ETF. And if I'm right, we might see the central bank pivoting to more printing. They may not print more money this year, but they'll start talking about it. Those two things alone are enough to drive Bitcoin to 350, 5x from here.
You do think we're about to have a Bitcoin ETF then? Gary Gensler's going to prove
without question. Without question. It's probably coming in October. Well, what's so interesting about Ethereum, it's everything. Mm-hmm. You know, I actually bought my first NFT today. And look, everything's priced in.
Congrats. Was it a CryptoPunk?
You got to tell us more about that, Raoul.
Yeah, it's nothing exciting. I just thought I'd have to do it. We'll come on to that when we talk about NFTs in a bit. But it was priced at 0.75 ETH. Mm-hmm. So ETH is money. And I'd seen that because we commissioned for Real Vision a kind of headquarters in Crypto Voxels, which we're going to release soon, just for the fun of it. And the architects, we paid in ETH, and the land we paid in ETH. So it's like, okay, well, ETH is clearly money, but ETH is technology. We know that too. ETH is also a platform of which people are building a lot of different applications. So whether we talk about community tokens, NFTs, DeFi, a whole bunch of stuff, DAOs, they're all going to be on ETH. Now, will ETH be the only chain? No. Clearly, people use Solana for stuff, and there'll be a multi-chain world of which there'll be a few giants and a long tail of stuff. And that's pretty normal. But ETH has got really interesting because of this. And then, I came out with a piece in Global Macro Investor last month called The Greatest Trade. And, here's my macro head on again is, okay, we've got this adoption that is kind of exponential, right? It's growing at least twice the rate of Bitcoin. And it's by far dwarfing the rest of the space. Then the EIP 1559 comes along and that reduces the supply. So that's clearly bullish for the price. And then when you look at the on-chain analytics, and everyone is bloody staking it because now it's a pretty clear run between now and ETH 2.0. So why would you not if you're a long-term holder? So everybody's staking it. So that's taken a ton of stuff off the exchange. There's tons that have gone into just holding, tons that are locked up in DeFi, tons that are locked up in NFTs. And you're left with, I don't know, as of today, 11% of the entire supply of Ethereum available, and it's going down every day. And the demand is going exponential. The only outcome is an exponential rise in price. There's no other outcome. There's a lot of macro guys that will be annoyingly kind of hand wavy, like if it's being adopted at speed, it's going to work. And everyone's like, well, what exactly can I model that in a spreadsheet? No, forget about it. It's irrelevant. If you look at the rate of adoption that's going on of the entire crypto space, and this is my true north. This is all I need to know. There's one single thing I need to know and nothing else. So we know that it's growing at 113% a year in terms of number of users. And we will assume that over time, that trend rate of growth falls a bit. So if it falls from this year and goes down to 83%, so that's a significant fall in the growth rate. And we saw the internet do similar, but it was at peak growth was 63%. We're at 113. It gets by the end of 2024 to 1 billion people. And that gets us to about 3 or 4 billion people by 2027, 28. Okay, so a blind chimp can choose a cryptocurrency and get rich. If you look at the size of the assets, the entire crypto space as of today hit 2 trillion again, I think. Global equities are about 200 trillion. Global bonds are like 200 trillion. Global real estate's about 100 trillion. 2 trillion, 200 trillion. I figure that's probably 100x. And we all know, almost all of us realize that all bonds, all securities, all assets are going on chain anyway. So it's probably even bigger than that. But the point being is that you'll never, ever in your entire life, ever again, and ever beforehand, were given 100x in an asset that's already up 2 million% when you look at Bitcoin. You've never been given this. And you can basically choose anything and it will go up. So once you do that, you're not scared of making the wrong bet. And it stops you being tribal, because within that, you know some of them are going to be amazing. You take the pressure off. You take some basic bets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, a couple of others here and there. And then you can just have a basket of stuff. And over time, decide, okay, I quite like that, or that's getting faster adoption. So then you start to look at, like, Solana is clearly getting adoption. It's clearly happening, and it's clearly happening in the price. Okay, so do you want to own a bit more of that? Maybe. Is Polkadot getting to where it should be? Don't know yet. But it's worth keeping an eye on. There's a lot of stuff. And then, so that's how I tend to deal with it, is forget trying to model it and look for fair values and this. It's like, as I said, you can be a 3-year-old kid and be given a box of names of cryptocurrencies and take 10 out, and you will literally make 30 times your money over the next 20 years and next 10 years.
So Raoul, if that's the case, which I definitely is, there's a lot of stuff that appreciates in crypto for no apparent reason. But why have you singled out Ether and Ethereum as the world's greatest trade? Well, what about the adoption? So
this is the typical way I'll approach macro, and a lot of macro guys do. You've got this big thesis now, which is 100x the space in the shortest period of time. So then our job is, okay, how do I add alpha? Where do I find the better bets? Now, there will be probably 50 tokens or assets that will outperform Ethereum, but they're riskier. I don't know what they are. I have no ability to choose them. When you look at Ethereum, it has all of the elements of the lowest risk, highest quality trade. And it's a rewarding ecosystem with rewarding people in it, because there's a social element to this, there's a cultural element to this movement as well, and it's rewarding. So it's a good space to hang out where you feel comfortable with the asset, you understand how many smart people are working on it. So when you say to me, oh, there's a risk in 1559 getting done, my answer was the risk is like minuscule. And so I didn't care about it. Like ETH 2.0, it's minuscule. Why? Because there's a lot of very smart people, smarter than I'll ever be, working on it. So the probability is extremely high. And that's what makes ETH so rewarding.
Is this the bull case? Is it mainly
Yes,
from a
it's
supply side, or is there a demand side?
Knowing how
too?
markets work, this is going to catch a lot of people by surprise. It is all in the run-up where the money will be made. My guess is the moment ETH 2.0 happens, half of the ETH gets unlocked. And it all comes onto the market and the price will collapse. It's typical. Yeah, and that's a short-term thing. It might be an overhang for a year. I mean, who the hell knows, right? But that's pretty obvious that this is the best single time. That's why I call it the greatest trade between now and ETH 2.0. Everybody wants it to happen. They're going to lock up as much ETH as possible and get the yield. It's as simple as that. But when it comes out, chance ETH collapses. If you remember when Coinbase went public, everyone's like, this is so good for the space. Everyone's going to know about it. What did it do? Marked the exact high in Bitcoin. And I've mentioned that on Twitter beforehand. I'm like, this is what it's going to do. And it will. And this will probably mark the high in ETH. It's the marginal change that matters. Right now, the marginal change is more and more people locking up ETH, right? The rate of change of people locking up is still extremely high. What will happen is the rate of change of people staking will fall. It's as simple as that. You know, the bull case is that, of course, there's a load of people who are just going to stake and just leave it there. And that's good because that's the long-term health of the system. You know, nobody's in this for the quick buck, but there's a shit ton of people, yourselves included, who will end up selling some ETH because they want to buy a house or get married or do all the stuff that costs fiat money.
So, and then do you have a different narrative for ETH, the asset, right? There's all of these different narratives.
No, I think it's all being, it's people trying to overthink everything. You know, ETH currently is a platform. You know, that's how I think about it. You know, it's a platform from which to utilize their blockchain to transfer value, to store value, and to create applications on top. So, you know, is elements of it money, as we talked about? Yes. Are elements of store of value? Yes. Are elements pure technology? Yes. I mean, it's everything. So, you know, it kind of is still the vision that Vitalik had of the kind of internet computer. I mean, it is that, but that sounds a bit restrictive. It's kind of I call it the internet of value, and you could call it the platform of value. And it's not exclusive because others can do similar things, but nothing has the scale, the scope that Ethereum currently has.